Hello and welcome. I'm Karen Bulmer, and this is a short practice exploring the relationship between deep core stability and engagement and fluidity of movement through the rib cage, the diaphragm, the shoulder girdle, and the arms. This is really important for musicians because generally we want as much freedom and ease in our movements as possible when we're playing. But it can be difficult to achieve this if we don't have good support from deep inside our bodies. There are muscles whose job it is to hold us up against gravity, to support us when we're standing and we're moving. Generally, these muscles are located very close to the core of the body. And in a sedentary culture, they can sometimes go to sleep because we outsource the work of these muscles to chairs, beds, sofas, all of these things. And they just kind of go to sleep. Our brain loses its connection with them. But they're still there, so we can wake them up. And it's important to do this because otherwise, we will use other parts of our body to stabilize us when we're moving, when we're standing, to counteract the effects of gravity. So we might use our chests, our shoulders, our jaw, even the diaphragm for stability, making it really difficult to achieve fluidity and ease in these parts of the body. So this will just be a practice to introduce you to a couple of ways that you can begin to access a little bit more of that deep inner core support and also explore real freedom and ease of movement through the upper body. For this practice, you will need something small and squishy. So I have a partially deflated Yoga Tune-Up Gorgeous ball, but if you don't have one of these, you could use a folded towel or really small blanket or small cushion. Something fairly small and fairly squishy would be good. And we will be on our backs for a lot of this practice. So some of us find it a little bit more comfortable to have a little bit of support behind the back of the skull when we're on our backs. So you can gather those things up and then we'll get moving. So we'll start down on our backs. So knees can be bent, feet flat on the floor, the arms out to the side. Your eyes can be open or closed. And we're just taking a moment here to feel the contact between our back body and the floor. Notice the shape of that contact. And just generally noticing, is there a feeling of ease here? Is there a feeling of discomfort? And if so, where? We don't need to get into a lot of analysis or commentary, just sensing into our experience. And then we will bring some movement into the thoracic spine, into that rib cage spine with some twists. So lying on our side, I'm starting here on my right side, my shoulders and my hips are in line. Both knees can be bent, or the bottom leg can be straight and the top leg bent so that the knee and the foot and the lower leg are resting on the floor. And head can be on the floor or on your support, whatever's most comfortable. Palms are stacked. So from here, we will drag the top palm along that bottom arm and open up into a twist. Nice and gentle to start. And come on back and maybe reach those fingertips away, feeling how the shape of the rib cage changes through this movement. And we'll just repeat this a few times. If it's too much for the front of the shoulder to have the arm out, you can bring the arm to the shoulder just to shorten the lever. You can follow the movement of that top hand with your head and the eyes. Seeing if you can sense that rotation between the vertebrae of the spine between your shoulder blades. Let's do one more on this side. And come back to the starting position. And then we'll flip over to the other side, but on our way, let's pause on our back and just notice any change in how this position feels, any change in the feeling of contact between the back body and the floor. And then we'll roll to the other side. I'll come this way so that you can see. So setting up the same way on the other side, hips and shoulders in line. I've got dusty knees. And either both legs bent or bottom leg straight, palms together, and opening up into a twist. So we want to be careful here to try to keep the pelvis relatively stable. So the pelvis isn't rolling back. The pelvis is staying pretty much where it is. And the rib cage is opening up relative to the pelvis. Again, sensing any change in the shape of your rib cage as you make this movement, feeling the rotation in the spine. Breathing naturally and gently in and out through the nose. Finding as much ease and fluidity in the movement as you can. Let's do one more on this side. And let's roll onto our backs one more time for another recheck. Just noticing the effect of these movements on the feeling of this position. And one more thing before we get into our core activation. I'm going to come to this end again because this is a little bit more comfortable, but you can just stay where you are. We will grab our support, and we're going to place it right in the center of the chest and drape ourselves over it. So if you feel some pressure in the lower back, that probably means that you've chosen something that's a little bit too high. So we don't want to be in an extreme back bend. Instead, we want to get this gentle draping of the rib cage over the support. And then we'll just take a few breaths here, noticing that the support gives us some feedback about the movement of our ribs. So feeling how with every inhalation, the ribs expand in the front, through the sides, and in the back. And every exhalation, that releases. A 360-degree expansion through the rib cage. You might want to, after a few breaths in one position, you could roll so that the ball or the cushion is in a different position. Or not. If you're comfortable, sometimes it's nice just to stay comfortable. You can rest your forehead on stacked palms or on the floor, whatever works for you. Gentle breathing in and out through the nose. And let's gently roll off the support and come back to the back. Okay, so come on back onto the back. And let's just take a moment to notice the effects of those movements Just noticing any change in the way your back body meets the floor. And then let's get a little bit more detailed here. So notice that the back of your skull is in contact with the floor, but there is space between the back of your neck and the floor. And then tune into the contact between your thoracic spine and the back of your ribs and the floor. But then notice that the back of your waistband, so the lumbar spine, is not in contact with the floor. So there's a little bit of space between the waistband and the floor, or even just a little bit less pressure there. So the back of the waist is not flat against the floor. We've got a little curve there. And then the tailbone is heavy towards the floor. Not so much that the pelvis is tipped forward. So we want to find that nice neutral place for the pelvis. So it can be nice to just tilt and tuck the pelvis a few times until you find that neutral-ish position where the pelvis feels stable and grounded, but you can still sense that your lumbar curve is there. So that little bit of space or lightness between the back of the waistband and the floor. Bring your attention to the back of your ribs, so the lower back ribs, and notice how that as you inhale, the lower back ribs press into the floor just a little bit. And as you exhale, that releases. And then maybe bring your one hand into kind of the C shape between the index finger and thumb and bring it around the side of your waist, and you can rest the other hand on your lower belly. And see if you can sense that with every inhale, your entire abdomen expands in 360 degrees. So front, back, and sides, we're not flattening that lumbar curve, but we can feel that the tissues of the abdomen expand to receive basically the internal organs. As we inhale, the diaphragm, which domes up high, presses down on the internal organs, and then the entire abdomen expands in 360 degrees. Now let's bring your fingers, your index and middle fingers of your two hands, and just place them inside we often call these the hip bones, but it actually is part of our pelvis. So I'm just bringing them inside these two bony protuberances here. I'm just pressing in lightly. And try doing a fake cough. And maybe you feel some activity in this lower part of your abdomen, so between your navel and your pubic bone, and between these 2 points where we've got our fingers. So this is our transversus abdominis. So this is our deepest abdominal muscle. And this is one that we want to be working for us, to help support us against gravity, to help stabilize us when we're moving and when we're standing. But we can sometimes feel it when we breathe. So keep your hands there if you like, or move them back to your side, and notice that as you inhale, your breath expands in 360 degrees, and as you exhale, maybe you feel a little bit of activation in your lower abdomen. And inhale. Exhale, and feel that little bit of tone. Just slight, it doesn't have to be much. And if you're having a hard time finding that, again, you can cough to remind yourself where that is. Now let's add some movements of the legs.
So when we bring our legs up, we're going to bring them up one at a time. We're going to try to keep the pelvis stable. So we're not going to roll the pelvis up so the lumbar curve flattens. I'm going to try to keep the lumbar curve, keep my pelvis exactly where it is, and just raise the leg. Okay? So on our back, let's inhale. Feel 360-degree expansion. Exhale, feel that little bit of engagement in your lower abdomen and raise the right leg. Keeping the lumbar curve, inhale 360 degrees. And exhale, feel that engagement as you lower your leg. Other side, inhale. Lower ribs stay on the floor. Exhale, feel the tone in your lower abdomen and then lift your leg. Inhale, lower back ribs press into the floor. Exhale, tone in the lower abdomen as you lower your leg. Let's try one more each side. Inhale, exhale, lift the leg, and feel how that lower abdomen is coordinated with the lifting of your leg. Inhale here. Exhale, let the lower abdomen turn on just a little bit as you lower your leg. Last side, inhale. Expand all the way around. Exhale. Lift the leg. Inhale. Exhale, toning the lower abdomen just a little bit as you lower the leg. Good. Let's add on. So we'll inhale 360 degrees. Exhale, feel that bit of tone. Lift the right leg. Inhale here. Exhale, feel the little bit of tone, and then imagine you're going to lift your left leg. Don't lift it, but notice that this actually takes some work to not let the pelvis roll up. We feel a little bit more engagement through the abdomen. Exhale, let that go. Inhale. And exhale, lower the right leg. Let's try the other side. So inhale. Exhale, little bit of tone in the lower abdomen as you lift the leg, lumbar curve stays. Inhale here. Exhale, and imagine you're going to lift that leg. And notice how much response there is in the rest of your body, just in sort of making as though to lift. Inhale. Exhale, rest the bottom leg down. Inhale, and lower the top leg. So now you're going to use honesty with yourself. So the option here is going to be to inhale, exhale, lift one leg, inhale here, exhale, lift the other leg. But if you find that the lumbar curve has to flatten to do that, or the lower ribs pop up, you're just going to do that suggestion of a lift with the second leg, so that we're really starting to help the brain make the connection between the movements of our limbs and the deep core musculature. And the reality is, if these muscles have been kind of asleep in you, they're not going to be that strong. So it's going to be better in the long run to just work where you are. So honesty is the best policy here. So let's inhale. Exhale, lift the right leg. Inhale, 360 degrees. Exhale, maybe lift the left leg, but keeping neutral through the spine. Inhale here. Exhale, lower the left leg. Inhale. Exhale, lower the right leg. Other side. Inhale. Exhale, lift the left leg. Inhale, 360 degrees. Exhale, tone the lower abdomen, keep the spine neutral, and maybe lift the right leg, or maybe just have the suggestion of lifting the right leg. Inhale. Exhale, lower the right leg. Inhale. Exhale, lower the left leg. And just take a little rest. When we're working on the deep core musculature, you're not going to feel the burn like if you were doing a bunch of crunches, but it's you might feel it tomorrow, and it's more work. It's work for your abdominal muscles more than maybe you feel at the time, and it's also a lot of work for your brain to figure out what you're asking. Okay, let's get the shoulders in on the fun. So check your setup. Pelvis is grounded. Little bit of space or lightness behind the lumbar spine. Rib cage on the floor. We're going to make sure that our lower ribs stay in contact with the floor throughout this entire movement. So let's bring the palms down to the floor. And then we'll begin with the right arm. So I'm going to lift my right arm up so that my palm is facing my feet. And when it gets so it's above my face, I'm going to do a little bit of an external rotation and bring the back of my hand down. So I'm kind of in a Y position here. It's not right out from my shoulder. My arm's not right next to my ear. I'm kind of out in this diagonal. And then I'll reverse it. So I'll bring my hand back in front of my face. I'll internally rotate it so the palm faces the feet and bring the palm down. Let's do that again. So lift the arm, little external rotation, and out into a Y. And what I want to do here is rest the entire weight of my arm into the floor at the starting and the ending position. So if this is actually too much for the front of the shoulder, you could bring a blanket or a pillow or something to build up the floor so that you can comfortably release the weight of the arm and then reverse it and release the weight of the arm. So let's observe here that as I lift the arm, there is a little response through my trunk. I can feel how I release the weight of my arm to the floor, and as I lift it, I can feel that all the way down through my core, maybe even into my pelvic floor. Let's repeat that a few more times, releasing the weight of the arm and then noticing how, as you lift your arm off the floor, your core reflexively stabilizes so that you can have this nice freedom and ease of movement through the arm and shoulder. Let's do one more on this side. And then let's just pause between sides, turn the palms up, and just notice any difference from side to side and how your back body meets the floor, or maybe the sensation of openness across the front of the shoulder and the chest. And let's do the other side. So we can bring the palms down again, or even you can keep the right palm open if you like and just bring the left palm down. And we'll bring that arm up in front of the face. Palm is facing towards the feet, little external rotation so the back of the hand comes down, out in kind of this Y position. Entire weight of the arm releases into the floor, and then we release it. Back and forth. Releasing the weight of the arm into the floor, and then noticing how as we pick up the arm, there's this little response all the way through our trunk. Maybe right down into the pelvic floor. And we can say, thanks, core, for supporting me so that my arms and shoulders can move with such freedom and ease. Let's do one more. And rest with the palms up. And take a few breaths. Notice the sensation of the air filling the rib cage. How the muscles and tissues around the abdomen yield to receive the movement of the breath. And how all that releases on the exhale. So at this point, it might be nice to stand up and walk around if you like. Maybe even pick up your instrument and play a few notes. See if you notice any difference in the way your body feels. And or you can take a little rest. I like to take a little rest at the end of every movement practice. You could rest in a traditional shavasana. You could stay on your back with your knees bent. I really like to lie over the ball. So I'm going to come back onto my front and just lie over the ball for a few breaths. And just allow my body, my brain, to have a moment to just kind of receive the work that we just did. And you can stay here for as long as you want. Thank you for practicing with me. I'll see you next time.